Wait till you see the. No, 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 no.
Today I have a very special announcement for everybody watching. If you use my special link down below, you'll get 20% off gamer subs. It tastes amazing with 0 calories and keeps you energized the entire day, and check out the amazing merch they have as well. In fact, they have more than cups, they also have amazing t-shirts as well, so make sure to check out their website and use my code to get 20% off. Not only does every purchase you make support the channel directly, but if we make enough sales, they're gonna turn your boy into a waifu, which I personally find really awesome, and I'm super excited for the opportunity. So once again, Gamer Subs has amazing flavors that keep you energized the entire day. They have amazing cups and t-shirts, all that awesome stuff. So make sure to get yourself some today using my link down below and code UNDERDOG at purchase. It's a great deal, it supports the channel, and you're gonna turn your boy into a waifu. Viewers often ask me about the most underrated character in NetherRealm game, and in my opinion, that's Ares. Because this character had everything: meterless combos, constant mix-ups, unblockable attacks, and he can even turn invisible just like Reptile. However, even so, it was rare to find anybody playing him online or even at tournaments. So today, let's discuss the most underrated character NetherRealm has ever made. So first up, we have to talk about Ares' trait, because this thing is way more complicated than you might imagine, and as a result, it's one of my favorite traits in the entire Injustice series. Believe it or not, this trait has 6 different possibilities, and no, I am not joking. So if you just tap the button, you get a straight projectile, and it is fairly fast on startup, and look how fast it travels across the screen. That is no joke. Now, it does hit high, so you could duck under it. However, Ares also has a mid-hitting projectile, so you can't duck under that. At the very least, you're taking some chip damage, and that is just back in the trait button. Or even scarier still, Ares can actually do an overhead version of the sword, and this will catch you trying to crouch under the regular version. And then to make things even crazier, the overhead option also re-stands the opponent and is plus on hit, so this thing could be a mix-up nightmare, especially if you had the opponent cornered. And then the axe had an overhead version as well. It did a bit more damage, but it also knocked down the opponent and was actually worse on hit and on block, so not the best option in most situations, but if all you wanted was damage, you could use the axe overhead instead. But then we have the low sword option, which is the favorite of most players because it extends combos without having to spend any meter. And as you can see, it's possible to use both weapon types in the same combo. However, if I'm being honest, the damage isn't usually worth it, because like you just saw, these weapons can be great for mix-ups and combo starters, so why waste both in the same combo? Now, like I mentioned earlier, the axe option was mainly for damage, and that's about it, but the sword version, man, this is where things got crazy, because not only was it great for combos, projectiles, and all that amazing stuff, but it was also absurdly good on block and hit, because despite this move starting combos, it is also plus 15 on block. That is ridiculously good, more than enough to go for a projectile, maybe force a teleport mix-up, all that annoying stuff. It's really good even if the opponent blocks it. In Mortal Kombat 11, or maybe even Injustice 2, a move this good for combos would definitely be minus on block, if not fully punishable, but in this game it is plus 15. And honestly, the overhead option isn't that bad either. This bad boy is still plus 7 on block, so that's really good. It's not only safe, but it's completely plus. Or in other words, Ares has a 50-50 that is completely safe on block, and one of the options extends combos. That's really, really strong. And what makes that so crazy is the overhead and low sword option are only 1 frame apart. The low sword option is 22 frames, and the overhead is 23 frames, which means you cannot fuzzy block these options. You have to react to which one is coming. So already that's tricky enough, because keep in mind, Injustice 1 did not have rollback, and as a result, a lot of the matches were super laggy, so reacting to an overhead or a low, even if they are 22 frames on startup, was really, really difficult. But then to make matters worse, Ares can switch the sword options at the last minute, and that makes it even trickier to block. If you're expecting the overhead because he always goes for it, now he can still do the overhead, but then switch to the low right in front of your face. And then once you expect that timing, he can just go for the low raw and get a combo started that way. So as you can imagine, very, very difficult to block. Even locally, offline at a tournament, it can be tricky, but online it was almost impossible. Like I've said in past videos, I don't have the best reaction time. Maybe I can react to the overhead or the low option, but then you want me to react to an overhead that can change to a low right in front of my face? That's just really, really tough to block. In my honest opinion, that mix-up would catch me over and over again. However, thankfully, Injustice has armored options, so you could just say F it and blow through either one of these mix-ups, but you need 1 bar to do that. So if you're out of meter, these mix-ups can be especially frightening. But believe it or not, I'm still not done talking about this move, because Ares can also dash cancel out of every single option, and there's no cooldown if he does this. The weapon stays around. Normally, whenever Ares does the sword or the axe, he has to wait a little bit before they come back, which means he loses access to a lot of mix-ups and some free combo extenders. And as a result, the dash cancel mix-ups in this game are extremely strong. Like I said earlier, you're worried about the overhead and the low options, but now instead he just dash cancels and goes for an unblockable. I don't care who you are, trying to block this character is a nightmare. And like mentioned earlier, even if you do block correctly, guess what? He's 100% safe on block. You know what? Scratch that. He's plus on block. So yeah, you guessed correctly, but the game doesn't even reward you for doing so. Instead, here comes more pressure. As you can see, this trait is absolutely amazing, but thankfully it does have a cooldown. So once Ares uses the axe and the sword, he has to wait a little bit before going for any more of this nonsense. But now it's time to talk about the rest of Ares. So for starters, every single attack string is either safe or plus on block. Nothing this guy did was ever unsafe, or at least not when it comes to the attack string. Some special moves and trait options were unsafe on block, but as far as attack strings go, he's 100% safe, and sometimes he's plus. And maybe that wouldn't be a big deal, except that Ares does have 50-50s. This low attack, this down one, it's 6 frames on startup, which is remarkably fast, and as long as I have trait, I get a full combo. And then we have the overhead, which starts combos on its own. You don't need trait, and you don't need meter, but even so, this move is still completely safe on block, despite how amazing it is. The only downside about this combo starter is that it switches sides, but Ares can choose to keep the opponent in front instead with a different string, and it still does have a little bit of a follow-up. My main point is that Ares has 50-50s, an overhead that starts combos by itself and a low that starts combos with the help of trait. Now thankfully the low option is much faster than the overhead. The low is 6 frames and the overhead is 17, which means you can fuzzy block them during mix-ups, which is very nice because Ares projectile is actually plus 12 on block, which means if you do block high against it, you must deal with the overhead. You can't press any buttons, but thankfully at least the overhead and the low are fuzzyable, which means if you are playing locally at a tournament, you can deal with these mix-ups. They're not the biggest deal. However, online, once again, lag was a very big deal. This game did not have rollback, and in the neutral, it was still tricky to block a dash up low or a dash up overhead. But let's talk a bit more about this projectile. Like you just heard, this thing is plus 12 on block. That's right, a projectile that covers the entire screen and is this fast is also plus 12 on block. Man, only in a NetherRealm game could a projectile be this good on block. But you might be thinking, well, it's a high attack, which means I can just duck under it and then uppercut for a full combo punish. And that is the case normally, but keep in mind the meter burn version hits overhead. So not only can you not duck under it, but it will punish you for doing so. And this meter burn does some chunky damage. Look at that, 14% for a single move. So if you guessed wrong and tried to duck under the regular version, this would hit you and steal a lot of your life bar. Or in other words, this projectile is a mind game all by itself, because as long as Ares has meter, you're going to be scared to go for the crouching option to try and punish his regular projectile, which means he's constantly going to be plus on block and you have to deal with all these overheads. But thankfully, the one nice thing about this character is the overhead projectile is not nearly as good on block. It's only plus 4, which means you don't have to deal with his overhead, and the pushback is so far that his low doesn't even reach. So if you do guess correctly and block the meter burn option, it's pretty much your turn now. But next up, let's talk about the unblockable. Yes, NetherRealm gave this character with amazing 50-50s and meterless combos an unblockable move as well. There's a close version, there's a default version, and there's a very far version, which I believe is not quite full screen, but it does travel a great distance, and it's still unblockable, so a very scary option. As you can see, I was not joking earlier when I said this character is a nightmare to block, because he already has the overhead and low options with his trait, but then on top of that, he has an unblockable. Are you kidding me? I have to react to all 3 of these options? And then don't forget about the dash cancel, that's an option as well. So yeah, this guy on offense has so many options, and you have to have amazing reactions to see any of them coming. But then to make things even worse, this move starts combos into his back 3 for a good amount of damage. So yeah, not only is it unblockable, but it can delete your health bar as well. And it's also worth mentioning, Ares does have strings that combo into the meter burn Godsmack for whatever reason. So not only is it unblockable, but it can extend combos as well. And did I forget to mention that Ares is like a reptile where he can go partially invisible, and then if you meter burn, he goes completely invisible? So not only does he have 50-50s and some really good cross-ups, but now you can't even see where he is on screen. Yeah, this is no laughing matter. Now thankfully, unlike Reptile, he does not get a damage buff while in this state. So that's one nice thing for the opponent. He still has unseeable 50-50s, and I do mean literally unseeable, and some really god godlike cross-ups while invisible, but at the very least he does not get a damage buff. But then last but not least, I wanted to talk about Ares' teleport because it was pretty fast on startup and it recovered fairly quickly as well, which means if Ares wanted to, he could just teleport behind you and then guarantee that you had to deal with this 50-50 on wake up. And then if you weren't expecting it, he could teleport while you were staggered and force you to eat the 50-50 that way. Now you can actually mash out of this, but the thing is, if you're not expecting it, that's a cross up into a 50-50. And the teleport itself is also a 50-50 because he can choose to stay in front of you. So oh my god, in a bad connection, that was so annoying to deal with because you expect the cross up, but no, he teleports in front of you and then goes for the 50-50. And then on top of that, he can also teleport away if he wants to zone or throw his trade, maybe dash cancel with it to fake out some zoning, all that annoying stuff, or he can teleport behind you but be too far away for you to punish him. And I think that might be the most devious option because imagine you expect the teleport, so you go for an attack, maybe a special move or an armored option, only for it to miss completely because he teleported too far away, and now instead he gets a full combo punish. So as you can see, Ares is a pretty bonkers character and he has so much creativity with how you can choose to play him. You can go for block pressure, teleport pressure, 50-50s, turn invisible, all that incredible stuff. However, even so, I didn't see him very much at tournaments and I didn't see him very much online either, so I do believe that he's one of the most underrated characters that NetherRealm has ever made. But now it's time to let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below, and then while you're down there, make sure to leave a like if you enjoy the video. It really does help my channel out a ton. And then keep that combo going by subscribing and ringing that bell, that way you never miss any future videos. Make sure to come back next time, and as always, stay underdogs.